I decided to totally change it, as I often do, because of the tests that have been done with the wonderful folks here that enable the technology and the display to be great. And I decided to start my presentation not with what the company is about and who I am and so on, or what awards we won yesterday, by the way, at the I3A. No, I decided to start with pictures, because this is all about images, so let's start with pictures. That is a typical picture that you can take outside, and that picture reminds me and reminds you probably of experiences that you did. Yes, please bring the light down. That would be great. And before, you would take your pictures to the shop, and then you would wait for 2 weeks, and then you would come back, and then would come the emotion moment where you would open, you would flip the box, and expect a few disappointments. And the question was, how many disappointments will you have? And disappointments turned into more job or more work, because now you get, after 1 weekend, you get your pictures back on your computer, and the question is, how many pictures do I have to work on? And how much time it will take me? And so how much time will it take you to make that picture from what it is here into what it is here? And I suspect most of you who are familiar with imaging, I don't know how many of you are working with Photoshop or Photoshop Pro are working on their pictures. How many of you think reasonable that going from there to here might probably take them 5 to 10 minutes on very, very specific shadow and highlight tools until they get to right result? It's the feedback we get from professional photographers. So that's one of the problems we decided to tackle. To make good pictures look even better, but try to find a more effortless way, including in very, very tough lighting conditions. On this type of church pictures, the EV range that you get between the brightest lights and the dark areas close to the pillars is huge. And the problem is how you fix that once it has been captured, and how do you get to those details in the bottom without losing track and without washing out what was in the windows and the details in the windows. Same question, same adverse lighting question when you are doing indoor scenes or when you lend your camera to somebody else that does indoor shoots without any knowledge of what it is about shooting backlight. How do you get that back? How do you get those results back? And how much time do you need to do that? That's my first question for you. Until now, the images I showed you were done with some of our golden images. So I'd like to show you a result of what the photographer did with our software, because it will be soon about our software. So he was taking that barn and wanted to get it to there. And again, it took him, now I can give the answer, it didn't take him 5 minutes, it did not take him 1 minute, it took him 1 click. And he got that. So now, a few accurate, precise, great photographers in the audience might say, well, okay, that's nice, but I want to show, I want to see real color, because basically what you're doing, guys, is highlights and shadows or brightness and contrast, but usually when you start working on brightness and contrast, you start messing up with the color gamut. You start shifting colors. And this is why the magic wands available in most software packages usually got you come back to manual sliding and manual knobbing, because they always tend to mess up with your colors. And actually the question was asked me, this question, show me color, show me flowers, was asked me by a guy named Yves Ferrugia, who most of you know probably because of the tremendous contribution he made to the video industry in analog and then in interlacing and then in upscaling. And I was with Yves Ferrugia a few months ago trying to validate and to assess the choice I was making to become the CEO of this company. And he said immediately, show me flowers. And I'm not a very expert photographer, so I said, well, why? But luckily enough, I had flowers that had been taken in Giverny, where Claude Monet used to have his flowers in his paintings. And so I said, well, okay, well, I think I have flowers. It was on my iPhone, actually. So I did the iPhone demo, and I got there. And he was amazed. And this is the day where I decided to join this company. So as you start to understand what we are about and what we are focusing on is the dynamic range problem. And as most of you know, the dynamic range problem is not a human problem. Our human eye actually has tremendous capabilities, and when it comes to the church I showed you earlier on, the human eye is perfectly capable of adjusting to up to 1 million against 1, even further, according to some people, some experts. The problem is that the whole emerging chain that we have designed doesn't work that way, and is not capable of capturing as much dynamic range. Not talking about the famous and aging JPEG format that constrains you anyway into 8 bits per channel. So the question is again, how do we make those scenes that you capture look as you saw them when you took them, instead of having you mess up with tools and sliders and becoming an expert and spending an average of 5 to 10 minutes per shot? How do we make that easier in other situations? So now it's time for me to talk about imsense and what we do and what we plan to do. We plan to take over the whole area of dynamic range optimization in both still imaging and video. So those of you who saw the tiny booth in the entrance, there is a video running that I'll be happy to comment. I'll get back to that video. And so what we do to images again is bring back the light without touching the color balance. We do that in a very different manner than everybody in the industry is doing. And this is why we have so different results. Both in terms of simplicity, there's just one click. As some people like control, we have one slider so that you can adjust the level. But basically, it's one click. The quality, no shift in the color balance. Quality being validated by several professional photographers. And so the assurance for you that even if the exposure was varying in the scene you took, the appearance of what you took will remain. This is what we call eye-fidelity. And last but not least, speed. We claim to be 10 to 15 times faster than any algorithm around, just because what we have done here is formulated as a rigorous mathematical optimization of lighting parameters. There is no heuristic, there is no attempt to relight the dark zones and to darken the light zones and to fight with the artifacts. And this is why we deliver no halo, no artifact compared to any other tool. And last point to mention, we do that with a total independence on the bit depth, meaning that what we can apply to relight JPEG images will be equally usable in high dynamic range imaging as well as in low bit depth type of displays. Again, we do that only when it's needed, so meaning that when a picture doesn't need relighting, we don't change it. Actually, if you look very carefully, you still can see more details on the tree up here, but the overall scene and the overall exposure hasn't changed. On the bottom image, of course, there's much more work that is needed. It is the same algorithm, the same parameters that get to that result. So, why that? Why do we do that, and why do we think this is the moment? Because we've seen images everywhere. I mean, comments earlier on, and all the previous speakers were eloquent about that. Images are everywhere. People produce lots of images. Some of you know now that 70 million pictures are uploaded to Facebook every day. And people start to realize that their pictures are telling about themselves. And so that they shot better, I mean, it would be better to upload good pictures because it will tell more about how good you are, how great the situation is, how great was the landscape, and how great you are as a photographer. So people are starting to want a better quality. The problem is that they don't have time, and they will more and more derive from the traditional scheme where you take pictures with your camera or with your iPhone or whatever, you go back home, you plug, you import, and then you start photoshopping. So the first picture goes right, the second takes 10 minutes, so it's less right because you have 100 left. And then on the third one, you're called for dinner. And you realize that this is how most digital picture libraries, I bet that no more than 5% of images are processed or have been touched. Because people fear that, they know it's going to be endless. And they won't get quick results and good results immediately. So people don't want to go back home. They have no time for knobs and sliders. They want immediate results. And so the question is, how do we deliver that in a packaging that makes it easy to get good results, should you be an amateur or a professional? So We spoke about pictures, about technology. Now let's move into products. We have started packaging this technology into products. And we have started also spreading it across the industry. In terms of products, I will briefly describe what we do on the PC, and we'll be happy to demo what we do on the iPhone. And I will speak briefly about our potential customers. I think that in the room there is Mike Wong. Mike, could you? Yeah. So I thank Mike to be here because he's our first customer. And he seems to be happy so far. On1 they announced 10 days ago that they would be releasing the next version of their Photo Tools color correction software this is a plugin for Photoshop, Lightroom, Aperture, and it will embed eye-fidelity as the first step to make your pictures look right. We are also talking with other big names in the industry, but I cannot disclose that much at that point. And there is more to come in the HDR area, so the only thing I can tell you is that if you are looking into purchasing HDR software, you should really wait. It won't be very long. So InPhoto for the PC is mainly a showcase of what we're capable of doing. It's downloadable from our website. It only works on the PC. It's not a plugin, so it's a straightforward application for people who want straightforward things. It's out in the market. Come to me if you want to know more. I would like to spend more time on InPhoto for the iPhone, actually. Sorry. InPhoto on the iPhone is an interesting example of what we can package. Sorry? No. Of what we can package in a very memory-constrained platform. I was amazed to hear before in Tony's speech what was available in the market for photographic application as well as for uploading. Well, InPhoto will be bringing the best of both worlds because it will allow you to shoot your pictures, to correct them immediately, and to share them immediately, either on Facebook, on Twitter, on Picasa, whatever. It's built in. So we brought the two sides of this world into one application that is very easy to use. It will be, so InPhoto's ancestor is already available on the App Store. For how many of you have an iPhone? Okay, so I should see some more statistics tonight. So just look for imsense in the App Store. You will get the previous version of InPhoto, and you will be automatically upgraded in 1 or 2 weeks from now. As soon as Apple releases the app, it has been submitted. The standard edition is only $199. The Pro edition that will allow you to have much more control on your pictures. And for people who are going for the standard edition today, you'll have an in-app purchase built into the application, so there won't be any regrets to have. Just to show you how straightforward it is, this is the picture that you select. In a matter of 2 seconds, it gets to that version where actually the sky is still as blue, but now you get the foreground, you get the details, you get everything. And by just pressing this button here, you can choose any destination. I would like to mention the fact that we are relying on the iPhone's email API. We are using all those services' secret email addresses, which actually brings a significant advantage to our application because as soon as your picture, your corrected picture is ready and you send it to Facebook, it sends it. Actually, it passes it on to the email API, and then you can close the application. You don't need to wait until the uploader is over, which in the case of a 3-megapixel image can take a decent while. If you lose connectivity, no problem. The iPhone is capable of connecting your network. So it's really easy and straightforward, easy to use. Again, our business model actually is not into consumer application. We are showcasing that because this is the only way for people to see what they saw and to see what we are about. We are a technology company. We are relying on a hefty number of patents. And we are licensing our technology through OEMs. First in the software business, as with On1, because it's easy. You're processing images that are files already. And we will be moving up closer to the sensor before the images are encoded, as well as going down towards the display. I would like to finish by showing you the speed of the technology and its impact on video. This is a typical crappy outdoor video where, as you will see, the camera will be moving up to track the main character, And as a result, the sensor will be averaging like hell, and will just bring the foreground into the dark. On the left side, there is our processing. So first, the color balance doesn't change, and here, as the camera moves up, we are keeping the image right on the left side. So people say, well, that's nice, but this is a very, very small picture. So what are you doing with larger images? So that's 720p processing, King's College. Take attention at the sky. Look at how we bring the sky down by still having the shadows up in that example. So we are really capable of working on highlights and shadows, and as soon as it's packaged into hardware IP blocks, we'll be able to do that in the sensor. So again, these are, for those who thought it was going too fast, this is the shot, the before and after shot, where we evidence the fact that we are capable of working simultaneously on highlight and shadow. I would like to conclude by saying that the examples, the video examples that you have seen, have actually been made with the exact same algorithm, with the exact same parameters. So it's really totally ubiquitous, and we're looking forward to deploying that everywhere. Thank you very much for your time.